Hello and welcome to the Unconventional Podcast with Grace Hardy. Today we have Jo Wood with us, which I'm personally over the moon about, so welcome.
Thank you for having me.
That's absolutely fine. And so to the listeners that might not know what you do you want to give yourself a little introduction?
Yeah, of course. So I started in accountancy back when I was 17. So I've been doing bookkeeping and accountancy for like 25 years. When I had my son, he's now 21, I decided to leave employment and start up a bookkeeping practice, but it didn't go to plan because I knew how to do the job, but I didn't know how to run a business. And over the years, I have been trying to figure out how do you build and run a business while growing a family and making sure that staff and team are happy and not burning out. And it's taken me a really long time. In 2019, I set up my final practice, Jo Wood Virtual FD, and I'd invested in loads of training and learned about online business. So at the same time, I set up a group called the Six Figure Bookkeepers Club because I needed to become a six-figure bookkeeper from my kitchen table. So I thought I'd make sure that I was being held accountable by a community. And so I grew a community. Alongside that, I met Zoe Whitman, and we are now co-founders of the Six Figure Bookkeeper. We've got the book, The Bookkeeper Rises, is a #1 bestseller, and we have the Bookkeepers podcast. I sold my practice, Jo Wood Virtual FD, last year for multi-six figures, and now I'm a full-time business coach for bookkeepers, and I just am really passionate about people earning money from their bookkeeping skills.
And I just love what you do so much. I'm your #1 fan.
Oh, thanks, Grace.
But let's go back to the beginning. So what made you choose accounting? Was it on purpose or did you fall into it?
So it was completely not on my radar. I had fallen in love when I was doing my A-levels.
Oh,
we're still married.
that's so cute.
22 years we've been married now. And I decided, I was at a grammar school and decided I didn't want to go to university because I couldn't bear leaving him. I got into employment. I didn't know what I wanted to do. And there was a massive shopping centre near us that was being opened up called Blue Water. And I thought, you know what, I'll go and work in retail for a bit while I figure out what my career is going to be. I didn't finish my A-levels. So I've got good GCSEs, but didn't finish my A-levels, went into retail, and very quickly realised that I was worth more than £5 an hour because they were asking me to open up the shop, shut the shop, run it on my own, cash up. I was the best salesperson of the credit card or the store card, and the managers were just leaving me to it, but I was getting paid the same as every other store member. And I thought, well, do you know what, I think maybe there's a little bit more out there for me. So I went and saw a careers advisor. And they saw that I did my maths GCSE a year early and went, you're good at maths, why don't you become an accountant? And there was an apprenticeship job going at a firm close to me, and I went there for an interview. I think the salary was £8,000 a year, and I had to go to college at the weekends.
Yeah.
So it was 7 days a week.
Oh my God.
9 till 5:30, Monday to Friday, and then weekend at college for eight grand. But when I went for my interview, the reason I thought, yes, I want to do this was nothing to do with accountancy. I had no idea what accountancy was. I just thought it must be something to do with maths.
Yeah.
But there was a girl there that I recognised, and she'd been in my year at school, and she was working there, and she was carrying this massive audit briefcase, and she had a cup of coffee in her hand, and she just looked so grown up. And I was like, I want to do that. And she said, oh, I'm just off to clients. And I was like, I want to be off to clients. So that's why I got into it. And I think I worked there for a good year. Before actually knowing what we were doing. I was doing, T accounts and bank recs, and I just kept thinking, why is on the bank statement different to what they're telling me to do on these T accounts, the debits and credits? And I didn't know, but no one sat down and said to me what the point of an accountancy firm was. I didn't even know that we were producing sets of accounts because you didn't get to see, they didn't even show us that.
So you just one part of the big chain of events that happened up to the accounts.
Yeah, and I had the massive adding machine. Remember, this is back in the day, there was Sage DOS. One computer had that. I learned what email was when I was there. This is 1998.
Sounds archaic.
Yes, it was archaic. There were so many other things for me to learn before thinking about sitting down and having a meeting with a client. But what happened was I did end up going out to clients. I moved to another firm a few years later and became audit senior.
Oh.
Yeah, very quick. I was 21 and an audit senior, and I had the briefcase and I was carrying cups of coffee or tea and I was going to these premises, and I'd be there for because the audit threshold was so much lower back then.
Yeah.
So everyone was an audit client, basically. And I just used to spend all my time at different places auditing them. And I was actually at a place when 9/11 happened. I was in a big boardroom surrounded by all these papers, and there was a TV in there. And that's when I was on my own auditing when I saw 9/11 on the news.
Goodness.
But it was a great way for me to build confidence. But it gave me too much confidence because I thought I was really great. I was an auditor at 21. So when I started my practice at 22, I thought, bookkeeping, easy.
How did you find the transition, obviously, from like industry to practice?
Again, I didn't realise exactly what the whole point of everything was. My job as an auditor was to find people's mistakes.
Yeah, no, because I did the same thing. So I went from audit into practice as well.
Yeah.
So I spent all this time testing all these things, looking at everyone's like revenue cycles, expenditure cycles, looking at fixed assets, looking at debtors and creditors, etc. And then I left thinking, well, I know everything. I've done everything on a balance sheet and a profit and loss. I can just do this myself in my own practice. And sometimes that transition is very hard because you have such an overall view of everything, but because you're not working with the bookkeeping exactly, like I saw zero for an audit client to go in and run reports for debtors and creditors. I didn't sit there reconciling all of their transactions.
No, absolutely. And, that level of audit, the business is you're looking at just the end results of things. You're not looking at a transactional level, but also you're not dealing with a client, a business owner on their own. You're dealing with a big business and you're dealing with departments and you're walking around factory floors and speaking to different people. It's so different. So I started bookkeeping with the thought I'm an accountant or, part qualified accountant.
This will be a breeze.
Yeah, it's going to be easy. And that's where my passion and bookkeeping came from, because I think the narrative I had been told in accountancy firms was that bookkeeping is something that mums do when they can't have a proper job.
That's so shocking.
And so I had dumbed it down because everyone else around me had dumbed it down. So when I realised actually this is a completely different beast. They are not the same thing. There's something really different here. And I mean, one of the first jobs I got had CIS in it. I'd never done that. So I got it wrong because I didn't know what and how to account for it. So I think that's where my big, wow, why is everyone talking so, like putting bookkeeping down and making it out that it's so simple when actually there is, you need to have knowledge and it is a profession in its own right.
Exactly. And so what in your mind switched from I actually want to go out and do this by myself, for myself? Starting and running your own bookkeeping business is an exciting prospect, but as with any business venture, making it a success requires careful consideration and planning. Together, AAT and expert partners, the Six Figure Bookkeeper, have created an on-demand program that provides a practical and manageable pathway to getting your business up and running. The Bookkeeper Startup Program will steer you through all the key areas you need to focus on, with modules and clear actions that you can complete at your own pace. Find out more at aat.org.uk/unconventional.
I've been brought up in an entrepreneurial family. I was brought up in pubs while my mum would be engraving trophies upstairs and selling them. My dad was always going to have a word with a man about a dog. I always thought we were going to get a new dog. We never got a new dog. He was just...
So disappointing.
Yeah, so disappointing. He was a proper Dale boy. My granddad used to own post offices and he owned sports shops and magazines and publications. It wasn't a case of, I didn't have that fear of self-employment. My mum as well, I'm the eldest of 5. She'd always worked around the children. So it was like a rite of passage for me, thinking I'm having children, so I now need to be my own boss.
Yeah.
And over the years, I've been self-employed, I've been employed, I've gone backwards and forwards, and that's why I'm really passionate about, I run an online community for people building bookkeeping businesses called the Six Figure Bookkeepers Club. So people think I'm all about the money. It's not that. I want people to be aspirational and realise that you can, if you want to, make that money, but also you can create whatever 6 figures means for you. And sometimes that means using your bookkeeping skills in a part-time employed role that works for you and makes you happy, and your family have got the income that they need and you don't burn out. Whatever that means for you. And it's not always about running a business. For me, running a business gives me the flexibility that I want, but also in the past when I've run bad businesses, it has not given me that flexibility, and I would have been better off working the tills at Asda because I'd have had more security. I would have mostly earned more money as well, because when you're running a bad business, it's not good for anyone.
But I also think that when you're running a bad business, you learn so many more lessons than running a good business.
Absolutely. You can't learn from being perfect.
No, and I think no one is perfect. Every time you run a business, even if it's like plastered all over social media, it's not going to be perfect. That person is going through a lot of issues and problems behind the scenes, but it's not necessarily something people want to share online.
Absolutely. You know, the Instagram feed is, you know, one thing. And I think, you know, it's really good to put positive things. And I don't think you should put always like negative things out there either. I think being real and honest. And that's what I said to you. You can ask me anything. There's been some really, really dark times in my businesses. And then there's been some really great highs. But it's like if you go to work, it's never just easy. You have to work for your paycheck and you have to work to earn money regardless. And sometimes work's going fine, but something in your family or health.
Yeah, personal life.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Like, I remember, I've been through a lot of personal things running my business in the past 7-8 months, I think, and you just don't really share it online. And then I get so many messages going, I just want to be like you, and I go, oh, that's lovely, but I don't think that you do.
You want to be what you see and part of me. Yeah, absolutely. You know, and the thing is, when you do share just the positivity, people think you're lucky.
Yeah.
Whereas I've realised that actually it's given me more influence and power by sharing the bad times, and actually it's like therapy. What I like to do is I don't share the wound, I share the scar.
Yes.
So after I've healed and after I've worked out what the lessons are, I think that's really important, and I would really encourage people like to absolutely share.
Yeah.
But when you've figured out, and at the aftermath, when you're not in the moment of it being really tough.
Yeah, I agree. I went through a breakup when I was running my business, and I did this video. I spent 3 days in bed bawling my eyes out, not being able to work, and I did this video talking about how difficult it is to be a solo business owner, because when something goes wrong in your personal life, it affects your business because you're the one doing everything. So if you don't show up, then your business doesn't necessarily run as it should. And I sent it to my sister being like, shall I post this? She went, that's too raw. It looks like you haven't brushed your hair in about a week. She was like, do it in a few weeks when you're a lot better. So I did that video with makeup on, sat in my car when I had more recovered from the situation. And that was a much better time to do that video than me bawling my eyes out in my bed in my pajamas.
And it's good for you to see how far you've come from that moment in time, and maybe capture things when you want to, when you're in a not such a good place. But just be really, is that helping somebody at that moment, or will that just make people really worried about you? I think it's good to share that we all have tough times, but it's good to know that I have this saying, this too shall pass. Anytime there is something that's really tough, I just think this will pass. There will be a moment that I can reflect on this afterwards and I'd have grown in some way and it will be okay. But if I'm ever feeling like I'm in it, then it's not a good time to share.
I would very much agree with that. And so in your businesses, pretty much all of them, you've had to balance being a mum as well as a business owner. And so how do you try and find that balance? Because I'm sure it's very difficult.
Yeah. And I'm also a wife and a sister and a daughter, daughter-in-law, all the hats.
Yep.
And I'm a people pleaser, and I always feel that I'm letting people down. And the person I've let down the most is myself, because I've always put everyone else first. And as I'm in my 40s now, I think I'm getting better at realising that if mama's not happy, no one's happy. And I'm learning to put me first. But I still really struggle with that. How have I managed? I've managed with, it takes a village. Yeah. I am lucky that I've got sisters and brothers and my mum and family, and I've always had good friends that have been helped with childcare, childminders and things that I've classed as friends. Out of childminder ended up being my youngest daughter's godmother. We've become really
so
close.
Lovely.
But I've always had the guilt.
Yeah.
that I'm either spending too much time at work or spending too much time at home.
Mm-hmm.
And I think when you love your business, your clients and your team members become extended family.
Yeah.
And they're all the extra hats you've got to wear. And I feel like that now with my community. I really care. And I sometimes message people, think, I haven't seen you around on a Zoom or something recently. Is everything all right? They're like, no, I'm a proper empath. And I can feel through the Zoom screen if something's going on with someone. And I've had to learn how to like protect myself before. And I thought Zoom might protect me from that. It doesn't. I can feel people's emotions. So I think I've had to learn a lot how to reduce my cortisol as well, because even as a teenager, I used to like never see the Christmas pantomime at school, because when you start getting to the end of the term and things start becoming fun, and there's like movies being put on and things like that, so everyone starts winding down, and whenever I've started to wind down, I get ill. And I learned that when in surgery for a transplant, an organ transplant, they flush your body with cortisol when you're trying to accept a new organ, because you can't get infection when your cortisol is really high.
Really?
But when the cortisol drops, you can get infection. So imagine that with us, we work, and we start to slowly, decline the cortisol, and then we get ill. So I always say to people, do you go on holiday and sometimes get ill, or at the end of the holiday, or lots of teachers, they have half term and they spend the whole time in bed because then that's their cortisol. So for me, I've had to learn, and it's been a really great way to put on my to-do list, rather than relax today. That's not going to happen. But on my to-do list, if I give myself the task of how am I going to reduce my cortisol today, it feels like an action.
And so what sort of things do you do?
Dog walk, yoga, true crime, or trauma. Watching like paramedics and things. I mean, that might send someone else off, but for me and my mum, it's really funny. We're like, oh, love a bit of trauma. Calms us right down. It's escapism. So how can I escape? And maybe it's just sitting in the garden with a cup of coffee and giving myself 10 minutes. And also really protecting my calendar. And where that guilt comes in. So for me, I'm a feeder as well. I love to feed my family. I love to cook. So I have to make sure that my diary allows me that at 5 o'clock I can be in my kitchen, music on and cooking, chopping and making food. And then if everyone's got a full up belly, it feels like I've given that's my motherly duties. My husband is a massive support, and we have kind of swapped roles over the years, when sometimes he's had like the big job, and then I've been like the main carer and things at home, or running my side hustle at the time, in the evenings and around the kids, but I was like the sole, carer. But then there's been loads of other times, and he's been doing it for a long time now, where he basically is the one that the school will phone, or, the kids phone for a lift rather than me. And I think that really, you need to have someone like that. You can't, I think we'd both struggle if we were both in like at the both level of high power jobs, because someone needs to be there for the kids, even though they're 21, 17 and 13 now. I think even more so in different ways compared to when they were younger, and they'd be happy to go and play with their friends and things like that. They need me to just be there to have that conversation when they need it.
I think so, and definitely teenagers are so difficult. If my mum wasn't there at the end of the phone, I honestly wouldn't know what I'd do. She's always the first person I ring for absolutely anything, and I love that she's always there, unless I call her when she's at work, because now I'm self-employed, I can call her whenever, and she's like, I'm doing some very important work, you're gonna have to wait. It's hard, isn't it? I mean, my son actually in COVID, he did his AAT apprenticeship with us. So we took him out of his A-levels because our business was growing. And I was like, we need some more staff. And he was not doing the homeschooling he was meant to do. So we pulled him out of there, and he did his level 2 and level 3 with us, which was great. And then my daughter now is our social media manager. So that's amazing.
Yeah, so she does things like that. And I've really tried to, this weekend, Zoe and I met some of our members in Edinburgh, and I took the girls and my husband, and Zoe brought her kids with them. And we try and, I have spent so many years pretending in business that I wasn't a mother, and then going home and pretending I didn't have a business. that now I've realised for me, I don't feel there's work-life balance. Mm-hmm. There's life, and it's got to, work for both things. And sometimes I need to give more to one thing than the other. Mm-hmm. And that's why team systems, processes, and everything need to be there, because I do need to be able to, at a drop of a hat, be there for my family.
And I think that's so important to have those in place so that you can work your life around everything, because there's so much going on all of the time. But I think it was in 2021 or 22 you decided to sell your business. Mm-hmm. What led you to that decision?
Okay. So the sale actually happened August 23.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So I'm not even a year out, which it feels like such a long time ago. But what led to it? So I wanted to invest in a new business coach.
Yeah.
And she had very high investment. But I had it on my vision board. It was like, I'd love to work with this lady. And I was on a dog walk, one of my cortisol reducing dog walks. And I was voice noting her because we'd had a conversation and she was like, I think this would be great for you. And I was like, the thing is, I need the money. Yeah. And it's a lot of money. And she said, so what are you going to do to get the money? And I went, I don't know, I'll sell my practice. Tongue in cheek, like absolutely joking. It was not on the radar. I think this was May 23 as well. She said, okay, why don't you just investigate what that would look like for you in the future? Because if you, and I was like, well, I'm definitely going to sell it one day.
Yeah.
So I did a bit of research. Bev Flanagan had sold to Johan.
Yep.
And I just thought I'll speak to Johan. I spoke to some other people as well. And actually I had a great friend of mine, James Ashford. I went to him and he went to some people in the market for me anonymously, because I didn't want, if I wasn't going to sell, I didn't want my clients, my team and my community
to all
know before I'd made a decision. Yeah. So it was really lovely. And this is why we need friends and partners in business. Yeah. So I spoke to Johan and I got some other quotes, but Johan literally made me an offer within 12 hours.
Are you running a business? Meet your new best friend, Sage Accounting Individual. Whether you're testing an idea, managing a side hustle, or running a full-time sole trader business, Sage makes digital record keeping a breeze. You can connect your bank, categorize transactions, and create professional invoices in seconds, and send them to your client in a click. Understand your profits, track who owes you money, and get your taxes sorted all from your phone or computer. Need a helping hand? Get instant support from our Sage specialists via web chat, or connect with an expert accountant like me for expert business advice. With Sage, you can focus on what matters, growing your business, while Sage Accounting Individual handles transactions and taxes. It's the perfect partnership to unleash your business potential. Join over 1.2 million businesses already using Sage. You can start today for free by going to sage.com/UK/sage-individual and unleash your business potential today.
Oh my goodness. A serious offer. More than I'd ever kind of thought it was worth. And because basically what I was going out to market to find was, what do I need to do to sell this business in 3 years?
Yep.
Because it was a personal brand business. Mm-hmm. So straight away I was like, I need to change the name. It can't be Joe Wood Virtual FD. No one's going to be buying that.
Yeah.
I also needed to be thinking about practice management software. I wasn't really 100% sure with what we were using, and I felt like there needed to be some improvements. And then the whole brand, everything. I was like, there's going to be some work to do. But it just shows that a personal brand can count for more than just for the person.
Yeah.
And it actually, raised the multiple of my business. And so I had a big decision to make. But in my gut, I was like, because of this whole cortisol burnout thing, I mean, I'm not stress has nearly killed me. In 2015, I had 3 operations in very quick succession, and they one point told my husband, and I heard it through the curtain, she may not make this. And that was majorly down to stress, because I was running a bad business. I had 12 members of staff. I had, again, multi-6-figure company, but I was earning about 15 grand a year between me and my husband. We were broke because the business wasn't profitable, and it was killing me.
And so what did you do from there? You obviously realised you had to do something.
I walked away from that business. Then I just threw myself into learning something completely different, which was network marketing.
Oh, what is that?
Right, so network marketing is like lots of people hate it. It's called MLM as well, multi-level marketing. I actually went into selling aloe vera, if you can believe it. But what happened was...
Sounds like the Avion thing.
Yeah, it's like when I was getting better after my illnesses, I was looking at health and well-being as like, how am I going to make myself better? So I needed to throw myself into health and well-being. And someone gave me, because I had all this gut issues, they gave me some, like they said, try this aloe vera, just take a couple of shots a day, do this. And I was doing it and I was getting great, I was like, oh my God, I feel so much better. So I got really evangelical about it. And because I had a story to tell about how it was making me feel better, I started telling other people about it, and then they started buying it, and then you start getting commission and things like that, and then you start building a team, and I started building a team, and I was traveling, and it was great. But what they taught me was personal brand. They taught me about attraction marketing. They taught me about managing teams, motivating teams. They taught me to read entrepreneurial books, and they introduced me to people that I would never have come across in the accountancy world. I went and saw Tony Robbins on stage, events once a month where I was motivated, and I came away like feeling, and I was like, I've never felt like this in accountancy.
Yeah.
Never felt like this. Why is no one talking about vision boards and law of attraction and, you know, how energy impacts how we serve our clients and Facebook ads and all this stuff? No one was talking about any of this. So I did that for a little while. And I thought I'd fallen out of love with the industry. I really did, because it nearly killed me. Yeah. And I was like, I'm not doing this anymore. But actually what happened was I went and got a job as a finance director. And I thought, I'm going to test everything I've learned on this business, this one business, and see how it goes. And when I got there, they were basically in a loss situation, but the accounts looked like they were making about £500 a year, but multi-million turnover. And over the next 2 years, I helped them make £1 million net profit.
That's incredible. Well done.
Because I changed their systems from the inside. I didn't just change the accountancy function. I changed the marketing. I changed the sales. I changed how they did their proposals. I changed the whole organisation chart of the business. And I had this impact. And then I got this feeling of, if I can do this for one client, I need to do this for more. I need to start a practice again. But at the same time, I had this feeling of like, there is something, I can't keep this to myself. I can't let other bookkeepers go through what I've gone through and all that burnout and rubbish building, and like these businesses that are just going to fail. They're set up to fail because they're charging by the hour and they're doing this and they're doing that. I've got to build a community at the same time. So that's when everything changed.
I think that's incredible. So what tips and tricks for sales and marketing would you give to accountants and bookkeepers now?
So against everything that bookkeepers and accountants want to do is like get visible. Yeah. But if you're not visible, no one knows who you are. If you hide behind a logo or some kind of generic picture of a calculator, you will sell. Of course you will. You'll sell cheap. And if you want to build a business like that that's faceless and serves loads of people, very, low touch point, you can do that. You can get to design. But what happens is, people get their exams and their qualifications and their practice license, and they go out to market without an ideal client, without systems and processes, without a brand, without a mission, values, all these things. They just go out with their knowledge of the operations, and they don't even really have that, if we're honest. We don't really know how to run the business or run the jobs. We know how to pass exams. So we go out there and say what we think people want to hear. I can do your tax return. I can do your VAT return. And you get people that want those services cheap because you've not sold anything else. You've sold a transaction. And then you find yourself overworked with clients that you don't like, that you hate, pitter clients, and you're miserable because you haven't designed that. The business has grown, is a monster. It's like taken over your life, and you can't afford to bring anyone in because you've not priced correctly, and you don't have time to, you're meant to be able to, like, you thought if you're charging more than what you were earning as an hourly rate as an employee, surely you should be making some more money. But where's all this money going, and where's all my time going? And you're getting sicker and sicker and sicker. So It's about deciding that you are a business owner and becoming the CEO of the business. And yes, you may be wearing every hat in your business, but every area in the business needs its own systems and processes, and you need to design it. You need to think. I think we all think we are service providers, we're freelancers, we are people that provide returns for people, rather than we are also CEOs of businesses, just like the client that sits opposite the table to you, and you need to sit opposite them as equals.
Completely.
I used to go in like shaking with a VAT return to hand it over to someone, and they go, "Why is it so much?" As if it was my fault.
Yeah.
As if I'd made the sales and purchased what I'd put. I had nothing to do with it. So I've had to flip it on its head and actually be the business owner. And this is why it's so important to understand all aspects of business, about, branding, sales, marketing, HR, software, everything, because then you can realise what is actually impacting the profit in another business. So you've got to treat yourself like a business owner first.
Yeah.
And then you've got to design the business and design clients. Now, the first thing I did, I didn't know what my ideal client looked like. I didn't know if there was an industry, nothing like that. So I just decided I'd only have clients that were willing to be my Facebook friend.
Oh, I like that.
Because it meant that I liked them on that enough of a level that I didn't mind them seeing my Facebook feed. Which meant actually diving deeper into that meant that actually there was some values that were aligned, and that they tended to be similar people to me, maybe female, maybe they've had families, they were running businesses, and the only thing that was different was that I got the finances and they didn't.
Yeah.
And I could plug that gap for them. So that's how I started with finding that. And, sometimes people just say, I just like clients to be nice people. That's fine. But at the beginning of my business, I didn't choose that. I just said yes to anyone that was willing to pay my hourly rate.
Yeah, and I think that's where so many business owners go wrong. It's about, I have avatars that I name, and you put down their income, what they do, where they live, who they live with, what age they are, and the more you can go into detail, the better, and that avatar is your ideal client. And then you know what to look for, and it's so much easier to work from those avatars than just work from nothing. And it also sometimes a law of attraction, because you've written down all of the aspects of who they are, they come to you.
And that's the attraction marketing as well. So you start talking to those avatars on your marketing, and that makes you really, it's just so much more clear cut. You know who you're talking to.
Yeah.
So you're thinking, my avatar is Sophie West, and I've got her stick drawing, and in my community people all know Sophie West because she was my avatar, and I literally brought her into existence.
Yeah.
The only thing I didn't know about her was what industry she was in. But things like she was always glued to her phone, that she cooked a Sunday roast, that I knew everything, what TV programmes she watched, everything. And she literally walked into my life, and then she was a salon owner. And then I ended up building clients all in the salon and beauty industry because of her. And again, is it law of attraction? What is it? It's a bit like that, if you think, I'm going to go and buy a red Golf car, you start seeing them everywhere, that kind of
literally.
thing. Yeah, so you start knowing it's about deciding and choosing, talking to those persons, and then you attract those. The great thing about attraction marketing as well is you completely put off the people
that you don't want to work with. Because pitters, and for anyone who doesn't know what a pitter is, it's a pain in the ass client, and you don't want them at all because they're difficult to get rid of once you've onboarded them. And it's always so important to listen to your gut. I've had so many Zoom calls with people, and your discovery call is to make sure that they like you, and also more importantly that you like them. And if you don't, and if your gut's blaring going, that's maybe not, always just say no, because another client will come around.
Yeah, and that's so interesting actually. If we go into sales calls with what we call with or without you energy, so rather than going in thinking, I really need this money, I really need this sale, people can feel that through the screen. Rather than if you go in there I'm going to do a really great job today, I'm going to share my value, I'm going to help this person, but actually I need to make sure that they're a good fit for me, because we're protecting our future selves from a load of misery.
Literally, and it's just a downward spiral after. But I think that's what's so good about the 6-Figure Bookkeeper, is that you do so much free training as well, and it's a free community. When I was in the no man's land of I just quit my job, not sure what to do, I came across the Six Figure Bookkeeper on Facebook, and I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. And it's such an amazing community that you've created, because people ask so many different questions and you can scroll on it and actually learn something from people's questions and answers. And when I found it, I was like, this is absolutely incredible. Obviously joined it. And then I got your startup program before I started, which was so unbelievably helpful, because there's so many things when you get started that you don't even think about because no one's told you, especially coming from industry to practice. I didn't realise I needed my ICO, my AML, my insurance, etc., etc. And it's just such an amazing community that you founded. Well done anyway. But how did you find Zoe?
Thank you so much. That means so much, because I love to hear the impact that we've had on other people, especially someone like as young as you, that if I've had any input into that startup program is a checklist that I created, because I started 5 practices and every time I was like, what is it I've got to do again? And there's a bit of chicken and egg like scenario in there. Yeah. You've got to do this before you get that, and and I was like, I wish I'd written this out.
Oh, it's chaos. Like getting your agent code. I couldn't work it out for ages. You have to get your AML and all of this, and it was just chaotic.
It's a nightmare. So how did I meet Zoe? So Zoe and I both been speaking to a professional body, ICB, about they'd asked us to help them out with a management accounts paper they were creating. I went to the London office and Zoe zoomed in because she still had a very young baby, and I was like, wow, she's so cool. She's zooming in with a baby and they want to, like, she must be mega cool, because like how they want her here and she can't get here. And I was a bit like a lapdog, like turning up like early, like, oh, I'm here. And everyone went to lunch and I was like in the room and Zoe was on the screen. We started talking and then we bumped into each other at another industry event, and then we both were speaking another event on stage, and we kept just seeing each other. And I had already started the Six Figure Bookkeepers Club, but I think I had about 60 members in there. And I was trying to build my new business as well. And I saw her speak on stage about setting 90-day goals. And I was like, oh my God, she's like me. She is just like me. She is not like how everyone else is. She's you could tell she had a thirst for knowledge about business and marketing. And I was like, I need to talk to her more. So she got off stage and I literally went up to her and said, oh my God, that was amazing. And she made us all do a visualization on stage as well. I was like, oh my God, we are incredible. So similar. Yeah. And I said, I've got this idea and I want to help more bookkeepers. And she like looked at me and she was like, okay. And I was like, do you want to be part of this business? She looked at me like I had 3 heads. Like, we're strangers. And now I know her and how, she is cautious about letting people in. I must have really freaked her out that day. So we started talking on the phone. This was November 19. We started talking on the phone while she was at the park with the kids. It was Saturday mornings. We'd have a regular weekly chat. And we decided by the time January come around that we needed to meet in person and see if we could build a business together.
As someone who started my own accountancy business, I know how exciting and challenging it can be. If you're looking to follow a similar path, Informe is here to help. A free website powered by AAT, Informe provides free guidance to empower small businesses to make more informed decisions. Informe will help unlock your inspiration and turn your idea into a reality, and navigate the non-stop challenges of running a business from start up to scale up. Find out more at informe.co.uk/unconventional.
So she was living in Bristol, I'm living in Kent, she now lives in Wales, so we are like Gavin and Stacey. And we looked at the map and Reading was halfway. So we booked an Airbnb in Reading, and she now tells me that I got to the Airbnb on time and was trying to make it all nice, and I'd bought her a notebook and I bought her some chocolates, and I was
you're
like,
the cutest.
Well, how do you act? And she said she kept walking around because she was really nervous, and she was like, I don't know if I want to go in. And I get it. It was weird. Like, we didn't know each other, complete strangers. Anyway, she did finally come in. And we started talking, and we ended up covering the floor with wrapping paper and Post-it notes, and we mapped out the course and we incorporated the business. We started the website. We started the registration process for VAT, everything in that weekend. And we ended up getting chucked out the Airbnb, and we went to the library, which we were too loud for. So then we went to a cafe and we were like, oh my goodness, we can work together. Yeah. So the next month, February 2020, I met her at her house in Bristol, and we went and we had a photo shoot, which did look like an engagement shoot because we looked a little bit like awkward together, and it was at a hotel, and we were like, how do we make this look like we're in business and not in love? It was really funny. But we got some photos, and then COVID hit. So then we didn't see each other again until September 2021.
Oh my goodness.
But we built the business in that time. And what we decided in that February 2020, when we had the photo shoot, we went for lunch with somebody in the industry. And he said to us, what you're building is a data business. You think you're building a community, and you are. But somebody one day will really want your data from your community. And I'm like, we've got 60 people in there. I don't think they are. But he said to us about, why don't you start a podcast? So we did. Yeah. And we have done a weekly podcast. We're nearly at 300 episodes.
Oh my goodness, well done.
So we just do, every week we do a podcast. And that's been our consistent action because we were both working. We both were in lockdown, homeschooling. Zoe ended up shutting her practice down that she was running at the time because she had 2 very small children at home. Her husband had to work from home. Yeah. And the childcare facilities had stopped, everything. So she had a complete change. But we managed it, and we just was boring, consistent action. Yeah. Talking to our audience once a week about what they needed. And then April 2020, we did our first live event, which we call Bookkeepers Bootcamp.
Yes.
Because we know that this is a really privileged area that we're in. Like, to get your qualifications, to pass exams, have the money to do that, have the money or the time to study, we're privileged. So we wanted to make sure that we gave the same amount of value that we given our courses and the paid stuff, but we wanted to also give that for free. Obviously, we have the podcast. We give away 2,000 copies of our book every year. And then we have our free events, and we've just renamed it because we've done 4 years of Bookkeepers Bootcamp, and we've a couple of weeks ago just launched Big Week, which is Bookkeepers Inspiring Growth Week.
I love that.
And we just did a whole week on AI and bots and everything, and it was great fun.
Oh,
we did a lot
incredible.
of ChatGPT workshops together. But yeah, it's great fun.
And I just love how fast it's grown as well. And like when we went to Accountex, like you had your own stand and everything, which is incredible. And I love that you guys and others in the industry have really like trailblazed bookkeepers getting more recognition, which I think is so important as well. And so you've managed to accomplish so much over, well, how many ever years you've been in this industry. Is there any point where you've accomplished something and you've taken a step back and gone, oh, that's a lot of imposter syndrome?
Oh my goodness, absolutely. Selling my practice, I now look at the community I've got and I'm like, who do I think I am being here? Because I'm not running a practice right now. I have imposter syndrome all the time. I'm so nervous about speaking on stage. Zoe and I last year were asked to speak in an event, an entrepreneurs event, a marketing conference in Brighton. Oh my goodness, the stage was massive. And I think because it wasn't bookkeepers and accountants listening to us, I was like shaking. I was so scared. But I think you've got to get comfortable with being uncomfortable. Yeah. Nothing's ever going to be easy. It's always going to make your belly flip a little bit, and that's good because that means that there's growth. Mm-hmm. I'm always pushing myself out of my comfort zone. Even, I was saying today, I've been part of judging awards recently. I've done quite a few, and I'm like, who am I? Who am I?
You're Joe Wood. You're the Joe Wood.
But, like you say, I know everything else that's going on behind the scene. And what cracks me up is my daughter's boyfriend, he worked Reese, the suit shop. Yes. And he used to ask anyone that was an accountant to come in. He'd just test them and say, do you know Joe Wood? And he said they all said yes. Yeah. And some of them, I'd ended up at Accounting Excellence Awards and they were wearing the suit that my future son-in-law had fitted them in. And he'd done selfies with them and things like that. It was so funny. And he's like, you're like famous, but like also nobody knows who you are in our town or anything. And I'm like,
but everyone in the accounting industry knows who you are.
It's so funny.
I know who you would. So Joe and I met at this International Women's Day lunch, which I was so nervous to go to because I met Kaylee through TikTok and she invited me and I didn't know anyone and I was so nervous. I was like, oh, do I wear a suit? Anyway, I wore a suit and I showed up and I was really nervous and I was late, so everyone was already speaking to each other and I was like, oh, I don't know who to say hi to because I don't know anyone. So I got there and I was really nervous, and then you walked in and I went, oh my God, it's Jo Wood. Oh my God. And then I turned around, it was Bev Flanagan. I was like, oh my God, it's Bev Flanagan. And I was like, you and Bev are people that I've looked up in the industry for so long. And you guys are such like role models and inspirations just for me personally. To be in the same room as you was crazy. And then I was like in my head, I really need to go say hi to Jo, but how do I say hi to her in a way that isn't too scary, being like, I know who you are, hi Jo. I wasn't like, do I ask for a name? Anyways, I went up, and the craziest thing was, you already knew who I was.
I did.
Which to me, I was
fangirling on you.
I was like, she knows I exist. I was like, I'm just one of like the 30,000 members in the Six-Figure Bookkeeper, but it was incredible, and it was such a lovely lunch, and it was so nice to meet you. And for me, that was a lot of imposter syndrome. I was like, why am I sat round this table? Because there were such incredible women there. But I loved it. You
absolutely deserved your seat. And I'd been following your TikTok journey and still do. And yeah, you'd really inspired me. So I was thinking, oh my goodness, it's Grace. And I need to talk to her about her TikTok journey and what she's doing. And she's just incredible. So yeah, the feeling was mutual.
Oh, you're so cute. Thank you. And then I got your phone number and I was like, day made. Year made. And so, final question is, what is a piece of advice you would give to your younger self?
Oh, that's a good one. It's really funny, actually, because my daughter is 17, and that's the age I was when I met my husband. Mm-hmm. And what's funny is that she said, I'm never going to be like you and fall in love at 17, and she has. But I think I'm kind of able to do this with her right now. And what I tell her to do is focus on the things that make her happy. Don't do the things you think you should do. Be more heart-led. Listen to your gut. It's always right. And treat yourself how you treat your best friend. Be kinder. Love yourself more. And know that as long as you're always trying your best, then that's good enough.
That's lovely and so true. But thank you so much for your time. It was so amazing. Thank you.
Thanks, Grace.